Hello,
Ha
hello,
ha!
hello. That meeting is being recorded. Thank you, Zoom, for letting me know. I don't know if you guys are going to hear that at home. Welcome to Kill a Bottle Podcast. Eddie Zamora, aka the Yum Yum Foodie, and of course, Señorita Megan is here, looking at me awkwardly as she tends to do because I'm awkward. Hi, Megan. How are you?
I'm all right.
Yeah, you sound so all right. That is such a promising and authentic sound of you being all right.
Well, let's just
Um,
say, you know how I've had all this trouble with Verizon.
yeah.
I Before I switched over, trust me, I called Spectrum twice and was like, my price went up. I'm gonna leave you guys. You need to put it back down. And both times they're like, you have the best price. There's nothing we can do. They did that twice. And I was like, all right. Like I maybe they thought I was joking because now that I switched over and called to cancel today, the lady on the phone was like, I can get your internet and your phone down to like way cheaper. You'd be at like $64 total. And I was like, well, that would have been great information when I called you twice. Did you guys think I was joking about leaving? Like, why do I
It,
have to play this cat and mouse game with you? I left. And she's
it,
like, we'll buy over the contract. So now I'm on the edge of going back to Spectrum after all of this.
it sounds like a dating relationship, kind
I
of.
don't
Like you just hear
understand.
like you're like telling Spectrum, you're like, my price is going up, and the guy's like, no, fuck you. This is what you're no. And then you're like, I'm
Yeah.
really leaving. And then the
Yeah.
guy's finally like, oh shit, I gotta do whatever I can do. Let me rub your feet. Let's go to dinner. Like, yeah.
But the problem is the guy I left them for is worse. I hate them.
Well,
They
I
think
mean,
I've had their service for 1 week and I want to punch every employee in the face. And I can't because I'm on the phone with them for hours. So I'm like, I would love to
oh,
switch back to Spectrum, but now that I finally have working internet, now that I finally have my phone number that I've been waiting
so that's
on,
how to get Megan on the phone is to just be a cell provider or internet provider. That's the only way to actually get Megan to answer the phone.
that's why I don't
It is
answer the
called
phone.
it is
That's all I'm
called
doing.
Kill the Bottle Podcast. Today we're sipping on a really interesting wine, interesting in a very good way. It's something I am not familiar with, and our guest, who I'll introduce in just a moment, is the person who introed me to this wine and several other wines in this world. But we're drinking this one today. I am drinking a Anderson Valley Estate. This is from Long Meadow Ranch. So if you ever see a winery or if you see these bottles laying sideways in a wine cellar that say LMR on them, that's what it's referring to. Long Meadow Ranch up in Napa. But this is Anderson Valley, and I'm drinking a 2021 Pinot Noir Blanc. So I'm drinking Pinot Noir, but if you watch the video, and guys, get on fucking YouTube and watch the video. It is a elegant golden color, really fragrant and beautiful white wine. Just before we get into our guest, I may have some for you, Megan. So you know you can put down that cut water that you're drinking and drink some good
I
drink
remember
some
you
good.
saying the next show we do is going to be here. So the reason that I don't have that one is because you didn't come here.
I will come. I will go visit you when your dad is there. That's really my intention, to make it really awkward in front of your father. Is That's when I think
No,
we should do
because
the
then
show
he's
there.
going to want you as a child instead of me. And I don't want that
I mean, I think he
conversation.
already wants me as a child,
Ugh.
but that's just me. I don't know. Maybe anyway, all right. So I really want to bring this special guest on the show. He is not only a friend, but he is just a wealth of knowledge in the wine industry, and more so than that, in Napa Valley. Currently, he is the manager of hospitality over at Long Meadow Ranch, wine we're drinking right now. But I want to welcome to the show, Kill Baller Podcast. I'm gonna call you a Napa historian. I like that word. That
Anything
makes you
you want.
anyway. Welcome to KTB, Keith Baker, my friend. How are you, Keith?
I am very good. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
Wow.
oh, I love it.
KTB, KB.
I look KB on
Hey,
KTB. I like this new
KB on
hashtag.
KTB.
it's going to be a
Um,
permanent thing.
I think so. I think so. Keith, so tell me a little bit about what I'm drinking and why you suggested this wine to me when I saw you just a couple months ago at Bottle Rock.
Yeah, I think you were up on the mountain with me too, weren't you?
Yeah, I was up
Yeah,
on the mountain, which I
yeah.
definitely want to get into that, so folks can come see you and make you feel uncomfortable in person. But anyways, yeah, talk about the wine.
Game on, buddy.
Yep.
You know, the reason I think we were up there tasting mountain fruit from EJ Church, but to me, I wanted you to try something a little unusual. Unless you really go into Mendocino or Anderson Valley, you're not going to find a lot of Pinot Noir Blanc, but it's such a fun wine because it's, it's the juice of that Pinot Noir before it has any chance to really sit on skin or anything else. So you're really getting the taste of just the juice. And I just think it's fun. I love fun wine.
And yeah, what Keith's referring to by sitting on skin is that's where the color is going to come from when you're talking about a wine being a red wine. So this is just literally the extracted grape juice from Pinot Noir and then made into a white wine.
Yeah,
basically, yeah,
100%. And you don't get some of the flavor from the skin either. At least for me, on the nose and on the palate, that Blanc doesn't have some of those characteristics you expect.
Yeah, and I mean, one thing that is surprising me. Sorry, Megan, I'll stop in a second. But one of the things surprising me is the kind of a fresh acidity that's that's with this wine. A lot of times for me, if I'm having like a Pinot Grigio or very very specifically high acid white wines, I feel like I'm gonna get acid reflux within like 2 sips, and I don't get that from this. It has like a really nice body, nice texture to it, and it's crazy to me because I'm sure I've had a Pinot Noir Blanc before, but I can't think of it. I was drinking some red Burgundy last week, and thinking of what Pinot Noir tastes like versus what a Pinot Noir Blanc tastes like is a mind fuck. So thank you. This is really fun. I encourage folks at home to, if you see one pop up, if you're in the store and you're looking for some unique white wine, this is really cool. Now, as far as availability of this wine, Keith, is this something they need to visit Long Meadow Ranch to try, or is it something they can order online? Oh, so it's a small production thing.
It's a small production. You can get it online. So you can go out to our website and order it, but you're not going to be able to go to your local, liquor store and likely find it. The production's not that large.
Well, I mean, I think that's one of the beautiful things about Napa, and Megan can attest to that, is when we were in Napa shooting and recording the show, it is part of the fun of going to the wineries and the tasting rooms and getting to taste some stuff that you're not gonna find really anywhere else. That's part of the experience. So Keith is a bit of a Napa historian. I remember the first time I met Keith, he was, I can't remember the name of your title, but you were over at Spring Mountain Vineyard, which that particular winery has an exponential amount of history. It's kind of hard not to geek out about the history at Spring Mountain Vineyard. But what got you into wanting to learn about Napa history in particular? Are you a historian to begin with? Is that something you were good at in school?
Oh God, no. In fact, I wasn't really a great student. I mean, I did what I was supposed to, got my master's and all my undergraduates, but no, history became more fascinating to me when I moved overseas, probably, but even more so when I moved back to the United States and moved to California and accidentally got involved in the wine industry. I was not just curious about the wine, but I was curious about what it took to make the wine, because I started in the field, and some of the places I worked had a history to them, and I just wanted to know the people who really founded these wineries, and so it just sparked an interest. And then, as you know, I got involved in a documentary that's being released, and then one thing just kept leading to another. And what I discovered was that people don't really want to know the technical stuff about wine as much as they want to know the story. And so it just happened. And then more places started asking me questions, and I started working with more wineries on their history and recreating their stories, and it just sort of snowballed.
I can't help but notice that if you go overseas in general, it sparks your interest more in history. Where did you live overseas?
Saudi Arabia.
Okay. Just the fact that, historically, like that they have the more, every country over on that side of the world has more history than we do. And we just talked to somebody who was talking about France and looked at beautiful architecture and the history of architecture. And the fact that you come to the United States, I was like, well, compare it. Like, what's like cool here? And he's like, there's nothing really that great. And it's because it's thousands of years old, hundreds of years old, versus our country, which is only, how old are we?
Didn't we have like I remember when I was a kid, we had the bicentennial. So it's not much.
Dude, that was 1976. Um,
Okay, no, then shit. No, that's right. I wasn't a kid.
We know our
I
history
wasn't. I
well.
wasn't even a sperm. Yeah.
oh,
So
thanks,
Yeah.
what brought you to Saudi Arabia?
Um, well, that's fun. In my undergraduate, I took 3 languages, one of them being Arabic.
I wasn't a good student.
I I said I took them, didn't say I had A's.
I got my master's in my undergraduate and I studied 3 languages, but I wasn't good.
Well, I
Well,
was having a lot of fun and I was drinking a lot, so it took me a while, but I got there. But Arabic was one of them, and Italian was one of them because of this girl, and then Russian. But then I studied Islam as well, and Zoroastrianism, and then in my master's, it was an MBA, but I did take some Sharia law, and then I got recruited.
Why the Russian?
You know, I was trying to
mail
figure
order
out-
brides.
I was
Duh.
wondering.
All right, sorry.
They weren't a thing then. I'm older than you, man.
Oh, that's true.
We were
They
worried
were
about
a
being
thing, but it
nuked.
was just a different Sears catalog. Totally
You know-
different.
You know what it was? I was trying to be smart and I wasn't. And I thought, wow, what's going to make me valuable and people want to pay me tons of money? And I kept thinking, well, I could take Russian because not a lot of people want to speak Russian. It didn't work out for me, but the Arabic did.
Yeah, I have a friend I went to high school with. We have a funny history, but he did the same thing. And he ended up going over to Saudi Arabia because of the thing and the learning that language. And he ended up, doing politics and stuff. And he's still there. I think he's been there for over 15, 20 years now.
Yeah.
And he's not going anywhere. He loves it. He
Well,
loves being
they-
in the Middle East area. He loves being traveling all around those areas. So
Oh, I loved Saudi Arabia. I loved the food. I loved the people. But I had 4 kids and they weren't there.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean that'll do it. Please,
Yeah.
I'm away from my dogs for like a week, and I'm going crazy. I can't even fathom having 4 children and being like, all right, this is time for a change. How do you accidentally fall into the wine business? Because you said you were in the fields. I do not see you in like a I don't know, with like a tractor picking grapes unless you're doing it for fun. So
I absolutely see him as that.
why?
Look
Thank
at
you.
him.
No.
No. Let's
Megan's
let her
trying to
talk.
do it.
No. Stop talking.
He looks just like that when I picture someone doing that.
Yeah?
Look at that mustache.
No.
Awesome.
That's a mustache.
Mustache. How do you say it in Russian?
I don't remember. I only remember how to say comrade and grandma.
Yeah, you didn't learn that language.
Yeah, not very well. Actually, I don't remember any of them. You don't use them for 30 years. You just sort of forget.
Yeah.
And then the Arabic you learned, by the way, when I was there was more like the equivalent of Latin. It's Arabic of the Quran. So, I mean, I can say
wow.
them forever, but well, it's nice that you say I don't necessarily look like that. I do have a mustache, yeah, but
I was just referring to your lack of a tan.
that's because, thank you, ancestors, I don't really tan as much as get a bright glowing red.
All right, sorry. I digress.
No, I did actually start pretty much working in the field. At the same time, I was trying to learn what they call front of house. And I was on a tractor. Yes, I was. Sorting grapes, picking grapes, taking sugar levels. Long story short, without going into a lot of detail, I had full custody of 4 children. My ex-wife's not in the picture at all. And I needed some money. And I was somewhat desperate. And they needed someone who could help out. And I thought, how hard can it be? I learned how hard it could be. And I didn't know that some of the people I were working with were very well known in the industry because I was naive. As you know, vodka martini drinker.
Oh, I know.
Was my And do you remember what Santa got at my house? Vodka
Which
martini.
what?
Santa,
Oh, yeah. That's right. Santa got the vodka martini at Keith's house. So Keith has been nothing but gracious to my family, and I've stayed with him a few times when I've been up in the valley, and it's just been the greatest experience because I don't know. We meet a lot of people, and there's certain people you meet in your life that there's just at least, I don't know. I'm not super religious, I don't know, but you just feel like you've known them before, or there's just like some kind of connection with people. And Keith, you fall under that category for me. And and any time that I've brought people that I know around you, they gravitate towards you because you were such a good storyteller, and you were mentioning that importance of the story.
Yes.
When did you get turned on to the story of Napa Valley? Or first of all right, where are you from originally, and how do you end up in Napa?
Well, that's vague. My dad's family is all from far, far, far northern Minnesota, something called the Iron Range. There's really nothing there. And I wasn't there very much. And my mother's family is all from Long Island and that area. So when you say you don't see me in the field, that's probably because it's more my mom's bougie side and then my father's side that I sometimes tend to gravitate towards. Here at Long Meadow Ranch, it's very different. I'm out in the field. I'm up in the mountain, as you remember. So, you know, I don't have to wear suits and I don't have to do all that falderall.
One, you're super handy. That's one thing, is like Keith is like, he can just like do anything. Like, oh, here's this lighting system I installed. Here's and you're like, all right, well, shit, bravo, dude. That's kind of amazing. But what sparked Napa Valley?
My current husband.
Okay.
He was a police officer, but he was from Yountville. And so when I met him, he started bringing me to Napa Valley. By then, I'd been involved in the wine industry, much more in the field.
Got it.
That time, over in the Central Valley, not in Napa. And we started coming to Napa, and it just opened my eyes to a lot of really interesting things. You know, different wines and different profiles and different people. Plus, that winemaker who I credit with almost everything I've learned. She was amazing, and she is also from Napa, and she worked on the Opus project, and she worked at La Familia and for Mondavi's, and so she was able to teach and introduce me to a lot. The history came about because one of the first places I ever did front of house was this historic, almost plantation home. And I was kicking around there, and they said, oh yeah, there's a cemetery over there for the house. And that just, I started looking into the history of this place, and it was amazing. And I remember telling people about it in the tasting room, and I could see that they were much more interested in that than the technical things. And so that sort of sparked my interest in history and really talking about not just what's in the glass, but what it took to get there, you know, over the last 100 years. And so the move to Napa, when we bought our house, the one you stay at, and then I started working at Spring Mountain, their history is unbelievable. And what, again, was very interesting to me is nobody really knew to the extent, like at the Chateau, if you remember that, the haunted Chateau.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Yeah, they don't remember, or they didn't know the stories. And so I would do these VIP tours where I would go up and we would stand where some of these things occurred. And we don't have time to go into all that, but you remember them.
Yeah.
And I would always tell the newspaper version from back in the 1800s, and then I'd retell the story as the truth, so that you could see what really happened. And then, you know, we would be standing right where it happened, and people loved making that kind of connection. They just love it.
And I mean, I also would recommend, you know, I think even before you being there, because of the amount of history, I used to, you know, recommend folks just that was a beautiful property, and it was just a kind of an iconic place to experience. That's different than your more traditional, I guess, Napa. I don't know what traditional is, but what you see for the most part in Napa Valley. One thing I really love about where you are now at Long Meadow Ranch is Farmstead. And guys, if you don't know about Farmstead, Megan and I did not get to go when we were in town together, but Farmstead is this, I say, iconic restaurant right on Highway 29, right on the main road in it's St. Helena, right? Or just about, or no?
St.
Okay.
Helena.
So right in so Napa, guys, it's like you cross one street, you're in Oakville, you cross another street, you're somewhere else. So bear with me. Thank you, Keith. In St. Helena, and it is just an outstanding restaurant. It's got a great cocktail experience as well. And then the Long Meadow Ranch tasting room is right there. And how much longer until they finish construction that folks can go visit? You know, I'm there like talking about it. I know it's under construction right now.
Well, we have the 3 different wineries, and so the only 2 open right now were the Mayacamas and then Mendocino. Unfortunately, a tree fell through that tasting room during a storm, and so it's been closed since February. I did just hire a whole new staff. They start Monday for training for a week, and then we are shooting to reopen the 16th of this month.
Oh,
yeah. So it's
so
soon.
by the time this episode comes out, soon thereafter, or right around that time, you can actually go and visit Long Meadow Ranch.
Yeah, the tasting room, again, historic house right next to Farmstead. But the gentleman who built that home built every house on that street and was very much involved in the founding of St. Helena. So we talk about that story there. Excuse me. And then we do our bourbon tasting there because we make our own bourbon. We do our beer tastings there. We make our own beer. And then we'll do tastings, not for the mountain fruit you had, but we'll do it for the Anderson Valley. And then we'll do it for our Rutherford location.
That is so cool.
That's the tasting room where the tree fell in?
Yeah. Yep, that's the one.
What I think for history purposes, you should leave the tree and build around it.
The tree is already gone because it was in rain when it punched through the roof.
I just thought, wow, what a story. It's still here.
We'll put a swing on it.
Yeah.
Make it like a table.
Yeah.
Please. I have that amazing video and picture of Megan on the swing at Spring Mountain looking all over the valley. And I don't know, I don't want to speak on your behalf, but Megan, was that a moment for you? Because I remember seeing your face after being up there, and regardless of it being Spring Mountain, but I think there's something about being up at the top somewhere and overlooking the vastness of that valley and kind of understanding a little bit more wine. Was that something that connected with you in that moment? Do you remember?
Yeah, there's a lot going through my head. Like if you would have asked me 8 years ago, 5 years ago, that's what I thought I'd be doing. I would have been like, no way, because I was in a cow town in Colorado thinking my life was going nowhere. So there was a whole moment there. And then I thought, the next thought was, my parents have always wanted to go to Napa and they've never been. Ha ha. That was the next thought. Which then led into, what the hell? This is beautiful. And it kind of ties in. You were talking about Keith's gravitating towards him. The funny story about that tasting and that tour was that you were dying because you had food poisoning. And I was like dying. I was willing just to get to the airport and try to get home. And you were like, no, we're doing this. And I was excited, but I felt for you. And so we get there and you're like, I'm going to nap before we go in. And I'm like, I'm not going to sit in your car while you nap. Like, what do you? So I was
By
like,
nap, I mean, try not to throw up.
Yeah,
that was really what it was.
My thought was this was going to be really awkward because I'm going to go in and not know what to do. And thank God for you, Keith, because he does make it very comfortable. Like, you didn't even have to be there, and Keith and I would have had a blast. I mean, I would have preferred you just not been around. Just joking.
I was ready to say, next time you just reach out to me. I'll hook you up.
Thank you.
We don't need him. I'm gonna take you around to a couple places. Like I think you heard Eddie that story I sort of hinted at about the last hanging in Napa, rich versus poor St. Helena. Did you hear that?
I don't remember this. No.
Well, that's too bad for you, but she'll hear about it.
Poor Eddie, just kicking his ass right now.
That's okay. That's okay.
I like him because when I like someone, I just tease the shit out.
Yeah.
As you should.
In all seriousness, if you have a day, come on up because it's fun to sort of go tasting at some of these locations and drive by some of these kick-ass places where these incredible things happened. And we'll end up on the mountain where I took Eddie and look at the oldest, olive trees in Napa Valley, a heritage olive that just doesn't exist anywhere in the world, but right here.
That would be awesome to see. Well, my favorite part of that, though, to be honest, I was glad Eddie was there because he took a sip of every wine, but then would give it to me to finish. So it's okay.
You know how hard it is to give away a glass of 1979 Spring Mountain Cabernet, the year that I was born, and try to like fucking not throw up after every sip. And it's like, I love it so much. One thing that I thought was really cool about where Keith is now. So besides Long Meadow Ranch, he mentioned Mayacamas Mountain, and that is an experience that I was able to do the last time I was in Napa for Bottle Rock, and I was so blown away when Keith showed me a vineyard right next to where their tasting room is up at the top of this mountain. It's first of all, it's a stunning view. There's like nobody around them. It's kind of amazing, except some lovely old lady walking her golden retrievers.
That's our owner.
Sorry, I know your owner. Sorry, but I can't remember her name right now. And she was so nice, and like the dogs were so damn cute. The dog I saw was so stinking cute. But it was that you had Sangiovese planted up there.
Mm-hmm.
Which guys, Sangiovese is a grape predominantly famous for being in Brunello de Montalcino and Chianti wines from Tuscany. How did Sangiovese make its way to the EJ Church wines, which are the mountain fruit that I got to try?
Peter's Vineyard's a great story, and by the way, her name's Laddie.
Thank you, Laddie. Sorry about that. I may have had a few, and my wife may have been driving down the hill. So anyway.
So it's close to Lady, so now you can remember it. Laddie.
Yeah.
The lady and the dog.
Yeah, but she's so sweet, and I love that dog. I always tell her it's my favorite employee of Long Meadow Ranch is that dog.
I bet the other employees love that.
Especially my new employees don't like you. I love that dog.
Call their mom and dad, and they're like, he likes the dog more than me.
Let's hope they don't listen to this. No, Sangiovese, it's another great story. This family just cracks me up the more I learn about them and their amazing stories. And some other time we'll talk about the Andy Warhol story, because that I still can't figure out. But they had a really good friend named Peter. And so when the purchase of that property, and we've got all told about 2,000 acres scattered around the area, California. But up there we have 600.
This little parcel?
We have just 600, which was actually a grant from the President of the United States to EJ Church for protecting the railroads around Nashville.
Bonkers.
Speaking of which, I've just gotten a message on my phone. It's from Laddie. I don't know what that means.
Ears were ringing.
Suddenly it's edited into the show later. That's sweet. And it's like, Laddie. And it just bleeps over old lady walking dog. Anyway, sorry.
Oh, no. You and I do that all the time, man. We get off subject. But we were going to plant your typical Bordeaux varietals. But what happened is they have a really good friend named Peter who lives in Tuscany. And short version of the story is he convinced them to try, 1.3 acres of Sangiovese, and just to sort of see, how it's going to grow, because he said it reminded him so much of Tuscany. So one of the things that's really cool when you saw that label is, they always pay homage to the people who did all the work, which speaks to my love of history. So it's called EJ Church wine because Elijah Church is the man who founded that property in 1872. And then if you remember on the label for that Sangiovese, it says Peter's Vineyard, because Peter is the one who convinced Ted and Laddie Hall to try Sangiovese up there. But again, only 1.3 acres, which is much more than our 0.4 acres of Cab Franc. Very, very limited production.
You don't just gloss over the name Andy Warhol and be like, oh, so what the fuck? What is the Andy Warhol story regarding the winery?
Didn't you know that story when we were standing there?
Yeah, but the people listening don't know that story.
Then you fucking tell. Oh, sorry. Then you fucking tell it.
No.
See, what I like about this is I can swear, because I have a horrible mouth that I always have to be very careful about.
But it's covered by a prestigious mustache. That's fine.
I'll get a T-shirt that says that. No, because the story where I thought I was a poster, and so we have an incredible collection of original Andy Warhols, and in my ignorance of wanting to be bougie but not, I was actually standing in front of it thinking it was a poster. It's behind the tasting bar, and I remember talking to one of our employees who does our accounting, and he was talking about that, and I was calling it the poster, and he goes, "You have no idea what that is, do you?" I'm like, "It's a cow, man."
It's a cow.
I love talking about Keith's stupid moments on for all the world to hear.
I have a good follow-up then. When you're ready.
Just wait. I'm not done being stupid. And another time I'll tell you about the tree I made fun of. But anyway, so then he said, well, I take it you've never been upstairs into the office. And I'm like, yeah, believe it or not, even though, you've stayed at my house, I'm a real privacy freak. And so I don't go into someone's office. Well, apparently there's more up there. And I then just thought, well, maybe he really likes Andy Warhol. Then I find out later they were good friends. Now, I know what Andy Warhol's like, and I know what Ted is like, and I'm struggling to see that connection. But another time we'll go into more depth.
That's pretty wild. Yeah, I mean, we've all had plenty of our missed moments of knowledge, I guess. Basically my dumb fucking moments. So yeah.
And I may not have told you either, because a lot of times what happens when I'm with you is I just start, BSing with you because
we have too much fun.
I do love hanging out with you, man.
We have too much damn fun. And for the folks at home, and maybe they've been to Napa before, they're looking for a new experience that they haven't done, and we're talking about this mountain fruit. Is there a way for them to book a tasting at that property up on the mountain?
Yeah, you can. You can either go out into our website where they have a phone number too, but that's very convenient to me anyway. We have guest services. So there's a phone number you can call, whether you want to book for Farmstead, you want to book for the my Camas experience up on the mountain, or if you want to book here in St. Helena, they'll do all the reservations for everyone. I probably should have been much more prepared with the exact phone number, but just go out on the website and the phone number's out there.
Well, I'm just looking up, that's longmeadowranch.com is the website that keeps on popping up for me. So thankfully it's pretty self-explanatory that
whatever.
LMR is Longmeadow Ranch. It looks like you can get to Farmstead. There's a bunch of stuff that you can find on the website there. The wines are there for purchase. Even the Prato Lungo olive oil is there, which was incredibly delicious. So yeah, and I see a phone number here. You know what? I'm not even gonna fucking read it out loud because it might be the wrong number. Guys, just go to longmeadowranch.com if this is a place you want to visit, and I can attest to it sincerely. I came back home with the Merlot and the Sangiovese from the mountain because those wines just really spoke to me for some reason. Sometimes after the movie Sideways, Merlot gets such a bad name until you look at some of the most iconic wines from France and you don't realize that it's more than 50% Merlot that's in that wine. Some of the Merlots in Napa, I think, are wines that are overlooked, and I was really, really moved by that wine. It was just so delicious.
And it's 100%. All of our wines are 100%. We don't do any blending. So yeah, that's a beautiful Merlot, and it's 100% Merlot. And you're right, it's maligned a little bit, but it's just delicious. It's fruit forward. I'm partial to mountain fruit, but I'm also, partial to that Pinot Noir flight, which next time you're in town, I want to do with you. Stefan Vivier, our Burgundian winemaker, he does 5 different Pinots, and you and I are gonna have a great time because I want to line all 5 of those up so you can taste, same winemaker, same oak regimen, everything, but we'll start with the Blanc and then we'll go through 2 different soil types. You can see what it does, and it's just a fun tasting to see what Pinot Noir can do and how varied the grape is, driven by how you produce it and what soil it's in.
So the documentary, sorry, go ahead, Meg.
Right. Is there something this year? This is always something I'm curious about. Is there something this year with the soil? Because last time I spoke to you, we talked a lot about fires affecting the wine and how it tastes. Is there anything new or different or something going on with earth this year that's making anything significant?
No, honestly, not really.
Okay.
And ash is really good for soil. Now, when I talk about the soils out there, we just have I promise not to get boring. We have 2 completely different soil types on our
Nothing boring about that. There are some wine geeks out there.
I could make this really dry if you want. But we have Pinot and Périgord soil right next to each other. Huh?
That was
I
fun.
gotta go.
See you later. Well, it is interesting, and I'll let you finish. It is interesting because I'm not a huge wine person or not a wine geek, and that's some of the stuff that interests me or sparks my interest is when you talk about, you know, different things in the environment that is happening. So every year I'm like, is there something cool like I can tell my parents, oh, I heard that this is happening this year and that's happening. So that's why I asked.
No, and it's actually a great question, because one of the things I don't like is when people just stand up, you know, because I've been on so many tastings, it hurts, you know, and they just sort of give you this talk about, you know, terroir matters and soil matters. That's why I like a tasting where I can see it. You know, I can see these two different soil types, same winemaker, same everything, right side by side. And you know what? It does make a difference, because maybe that's just the way I learn. You know, I hated studying in college and university. I really did. I squeaked by because I don't like reading books and then memorizing. I want to be in there. I want to do it. I want to be involved, and I want to see it and touch it and feel it.
What we I actually now remember the name of the winery, but one of the things that I thought, you know, from all the different experiences that I've been to, over at Raymond Vineyards in particular, I know JCB, Jean Charles can be a little eccentric and eclectic and crazy, but one thing that I think was really cool is that they have all examples of the soils for every single wine you try. And I think that really changes your experience when they talk about Rutherford dust or clay or this or that or limestone or whatever, and you can kind of smell it, feel it, and get a gist of what it looks like even, and what that vine has to struggle through to grow. I think that's also, you know, that's part of that history, that experience that's going to change for you. I think Megan would really like that too.
You know, another one you'd probably like, Megan, is there's a winery that does 100% cab, but they do 100% cab from Howell Mountain, 100% cab from Spring Mountain, you know, and they do this flight where you can taste, you know, and from the different mountains within Napa, you know, again, same winemaker, same everything, but you actually see that these 100% cabs are different based on which mountain they're grown on. Do not ask me the name of that winery, because I'm not going to promote another freaking winery on this podcast.
That's fine, and you don't have to. That you just,
Which leads
it's called
me
Google.
to my next question. What's that winery?
It's actually called Handwritten.
God damn it. He fell for it. I had a funny off-topic question that you reminded me of, and oh geez, my computer's making noise. It made me laugh recently because talking about history or talking about things happening, I did a joke about O.J. Simpson's car being like that whole chase being the it should be the Olympic opening ceremony for LA in 2028. What made me feel old is the amount of people that didn't know the reference. And I was like, oh my God. So my question is there ever a time you say something to a younger crowd, is there something that makes you feel old?
I got two stupid Keith moments for you. One of them, I was trying to be helpful, and we had this guy who was just starting at a winery that I was working with, and so he was doing this 20-something group of people, and I, like, you know, jump out there being all Keith, and he ran in to do something, and I was helping out, and I was talking with these groups, and I thought I was hitting it off, and they wanted to get something, and I didn't know how to work the point of sale system. So in my ignorance, I said, well, I'm going to go get Danny because I don't know how to do the cash register. And I'm about 2 steps away before I realized they probably don't know what that is.
They don't know what a cash register is.
I'm just like, how fucking old am I? I wanted to roll out one of those big old ones and just go, ka-ching!
Did you tell him to look it up in the phone book?
No, I just kept walking away.
What was your other moment?
Oh, my other moment is, so every once in a while, I used to always do this thing where I love old mountain fruit. And I'd have like a 88 or a 92. And I'd always say, well, what were you doing, you know, in 1992 or 1988? And I started getting so many people saying, well, I wasn't born yet.
Yeah, that'll do it.
And I'm like, well, because I'm like, what?
No. There was a viral image from the Olympics of people in the stands, like on their phones. And they're staring at their phones. There's a couple people. Other people are looking at the Olympics. And mixed in that group is fucking Mick Jagger sitting there with a hat on, and nobody recognizes they're sitting next to Mick Jagger.
They're just like on their phones.
I was like, how he's one of the most famous faces like in the last century, because he's fucking 81 years old, or he's the same age as my dad. and I just saw the Rolling Stones a few weeks ago, and he moves around better than I do. But anyway, that was one of these moments where I'm like, oh fuck, I'm
I
old.
would have
Sorry.
sat if I was sitting next to them. I would have been like, "Hey, can you Google Mick Jagger real quick and read it?" I made a joke the other day at a poker night, and this girl's 24, bless her heart. She said something really dumb, and we all were like, "Oh!" And I said, "Mensa called. They're looking for you." And she's like, "What's Mensa?" I was like, "Never mind."
Just send her a picture of Penn and Teller. Just confuse her even more. That'd be fucking great. Sorry, I know. I think was it Penn is in Mensa. He's
Mensa.
like one of the. He's like the LA chapter of Mensa is Penn.
Does it even exist anymore? They're clearly they're not letting the younger generations in.
Well,
we
apparently they
need
haven't invited any of us.
And they won't.
My humor was wasted. That was such a good joke.
It was
I used to quote Young Frankenstein all the time, and I started getting these blank looks from everyone.
No, nobody.
That's fine.
Is this thing on?
Hey, but like Mel Brooks is still alive. All right, come on. R.I.P. Gene Wilder, but Mel Brooks is still here. I was curious when you got into toning it back a little bit, not toning it back, but I'm going back a little bit because I'm always wondering, what sparks the interest initially. Is there something in Napa's history that is a lesser known thing that just kind of blew your mind when you took that dive into Napa? Besides, obviously, you knew the wine, you knew some of the other countries' origins of people that came over and planted grapes, but was there something that really stood out to you?
You know what really stood out to me? I mean, so many immigrant groups were here and so much struggling, and before them, of course, the Wapo Indians and everything, and all these people were here. But I think what really sparked me the most was the stories I started to hear about how women had to survive back in the 1800s when their husbands died. I started doing research on some of these wineries that were actually run by women, and they had to hide behind people because women couldn't, technically own a winery. I don't know why. I couldn't believe how some of these women not only persevered, but they succeeded. These are awesome stories of these pioneer women and what they were accomplished or have accomplished and how much they've done. And it's like, wow, everyone should be talking about these stories because you can stand in these wineries. And there's a couple of them. And, I mentioned recently in another podcast, some of that Marciano is still one of my favorite success stories for women. I just want people to know these stories as they drive around Napa, and because there's so many great stories. I mean, the hanging story is not so great, but there's so many stories out there that you're driving right by. And I guess every time I do research, it just sparks more and more of an interest, and I go down a rabbit hole.
They're not reading about it because they don't like us. They don't like us women here.
Megan, you're missing some cats. You're definitely
going to say that
at your house.
We're running the world, don't you know?
Joke.
I mean, you do have a nice couch, Megan.
Don't you know? We're running the world. I found a fascinating article in the LA Times the other week that I loved that should be a TV show or a movie, but it was about no-fault divorces being legal by, I think, was it Roosevelt who did it? Because he had his first marriage had a really kind of rough separation. And at the time, you had to find reason to divorce for the judge to grant divorce. And so these couples would get in front of the public and just scorn each other publicly. And then on top of it, they'd hire people like to entice their husbands into hotel rooms and like plan out this whole thing to catch them in the act so they could go to court and, tell the world how terrible this person was. And this lady was like, who was married to Roosevelt, his first, I think it's him, who was his first wife. She was like, he abused me. He forced me to go to all these political parties. Like, it didn't sound like abuse, but like she made it really sad. And so he legalized no-fault divorces. You could just get divorced without spilling. And now it's coming up recently because there are some right-side people that want to make it illegal again. So people will have to do this again. Yes, because they think people aren't valuing marriage and getting out of it quickly. So it was a really interesting article, the pictures, everything about it. And I'm like, this would be a great TV show or a movie, just like researching all the things people did. And then at the very end of the movie when like this main couple is trying to get divorced, that's when like they legalize it the next day after they've just torn their lives apart. Like
Sam, I like a different spin. I want it to be a relative of Chris Hansen, and they just redo an episode of To Catch a Predator.
That's
And
what it's
that's how
like. That's what it was.
it's totally To Catch a Predator.
I'm a history geek too when it comes to women, because they mentioned it reminded me, because they mentioned that women didn't even have bank accounts until not too long ago. And they listed all of this stuff that women could not do until the 60s, 70s, 80s even. And I was like, we hate women. We hate them. That's what's happening. I don't. But I was the only way I thought Kamala was going to be president, and I thought this was the strategy, was that Biden was going to die in the White House. And that was their strategy. If we can just get him in and then he goes, then she's in, and that's how we can do it. But now I've got a foot in the race. So
that's how you thought?
That's Good. What I thought their strategy was. I watched him function and I was like, he's dead. He's dying in the next couple of years. But that's what she's going to be president. The only way, I thought.
Could you do me a favor and never write a Hallmark card ever?
I think
start a line.
Start writing Hallmark cards, but in the Meghan fashion. That's what we need.
I did get my dad a Father's Day card that said "You're old" on the front, and then the inside it said "That's it."
You should have sent him a 23andMe test just to see if he's actually your father. That should have been the Hallmark card. Keith, not to put you on the spot, but I'm curious if you know a little bit about this, because I don't. How did Prohibition affect Napa? Because did people start making sacramental wine, or was there a way, or was Napa already a place where people were going to for wine? Because obviously it was many years ago, over 100 years ago.
Actually, there's a lot of incredible stories. That's where the ghost wineries come from.
That's the only reason why I asked you, because I'm like, if somebody knows it's Keith, I don't know.
I'll take that as a compliment.
By the way, where I'm from, Prohibition lasted until the 80s. There was not my town was a dry town, just so you know. Continue.
Where are you from?
Greeley, Colorado. It was a dry town. It was legal to drink there. Prohibition lasted forever. But continue.
Wow.
She's making up for it for her entire heritage, her entire town, and everybody that ever lived there. Anyway,
it sounds like I just want to hang out with her, actually.
Yeah.
A couple of things happened, and there was this really great picture I saw somewhere where they had these grapes going out from California, Napa Valley, where on there they said this is used for sacramental use only, and they would have instructions saying, whatever you do, basically don't add this and don't do that because it will ferment and blah, blah, blah. So there was a lot of that, where people just trying to sell bulk grapes. There was some people who went into, selling to the church. But there was a lot more of them who did basically the ghost wineries. Simply means that they made wine legally during Prohibition. A really good friend of mine wrote a great book, Nadine Netman, a book called The Bootlegger's Daughter. And it actually goes a deep dive into a woman who ended up having to do basically that during Prohibition. And so that book really talks about what people did at the wineries here in Napa, and they tried to do. Her book I love because they also said in LA is where she lives. And there was, they talk about, and she does so much research, to get historic information, how they would smuggle things in and out of LA, and the other character is actually one of the first detectives in LA. And so it talks about that, and the fact that what people did was they made brandy in these hidden rooms, or they made wine in these hidden rooms, and they did all this stuff just to survive. The real tragedy was the fact that, for 10 years or so, all of our winemakers disappeared. So even when it was over, it's not like we could reopen and we were where we were. You had no one with experience, really, because there's such a gap. And so Napa or the Central Valley, anywhere here, they were really starting over completely.
I mean, that's part of the beauty of Napa. It's now, of course, there is something to a certain extent bougie, or can be bougie about it. But at the end of the day, it's a city of farmers.
Yep.
And it just so happened that the grapes that they farmed there ended up becoming world-renowned wines, and it's aesthetically one of the most beautiful places in the continental United States. that I've been to. It is a place that I yearn to be back at every time I'm there. I never want to leave. There's something really special about it. I encourage anybody who has never been to Napa Valley. If you're just getting into wine, that's okay. If you're a wine expert or you consider yourself an aficionado of wine, that's great as well. But there's something for everybody there.
Yeah,
There's the most, I tell people, guess what? You got to go to Mondavi because that is the place that is going to teach you like the most basic foundations. If you know nothing about wine, it's like walking through a Disney experience of wine, going and learning about it. And then you have these opportunities to expand from that. I don't encourage people to check out wineries besides Mondavi's not paying me for this, but I just think they're iconic and they're they put it on the map, so to speak.
Well,
Robert
they're
Mondavi
tasting closed.
Yeah, right
Or
now
not
it's
now.
closed. Yeah, exactly. They're being renovated, but I think it's an opportunity to try wineries that you've never seen at the store. That every time I see people going to Napa and going to like Caymus, Silver Oak, nothing against those wineries, but I'm like, dude, you could buy that at Ralph's. Like, why are you going to to all the way to this beautiful part of the world to try something that you could just buy at the local store? So Napa is a place where you can create these stories and there's something for everybody.
There is.
Just no kids. So only cat ladies.
Because they don't add value. What?
That's right. That's right. Megan, do you add value?
Nope.
Wow. That was quick.
Yeah.
No value here.
So Keith, your perfect day. I know that you are like me, even though I spend a lot of time away from my home, but I deep down inside I'm a homebody.
Yeah.
But I know you have your spots, your favorite places. If you had to pick your perfect breakfast, lunch, and dinner in your region, what are you doing?
That's a tough one because it really depends on what I'm craving. Why don't laugh at me?
Listen, when all of those outstanding warrants show up for you and you're put in death row and it is your last day and they're only letting you to go to 3 places, what are you doing for breakfast, lunch, dinner?
Ooh.
I just put a deep story in there.
I'm going to get in trouble because we also own a restaurant. So I have to say,
mention
I mean, but this is, and I love your restaurant. So there's not like Napa is a special place to go eat.
Bouchon, there's something about that place. It's just, it always, maybe it's because I know everyone there, but I just love their food. Their randons are amazing. And although honestly, I tend to be a comfort guy, I would go there and that would be one of my final meals would be probably Bouchon. I love a good burger. My God, and it's a fun competition between Farmstead and Charter Oak next to us about who makes the better burger. So maybe we'll have a test next time you guys are here. We'll try one.
Ooh, I like that. I like your thinking.
I love that. And then the pizza, oh God, Pizza Zero is so good. That's in Napa. I love their pizza and their salads. But the best, God, there's just so many of them. We're really blessed here in Napa with so much. It's hard to go wrong. Ray Ray's Tacos downtown. They have a breakfast taco. You get out of my way. And it's just, I want Ray Ray's Taco for breakfast. They do this beautiful breakfast taco. I tend to know Upper Valley better. And again, we should just do a food tour next time you're here. If I want to drink, I'm going.
Twist my arm.
Yeah, I'm going. Oh, you've been with me at Goose and Gander down in the basement, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Goose and Gander. That is not an S&M place down in the basement. Just to clarify, it is a wonderful. It could be.
You haven't been in the back room.
Bar slash restaurant in St. Helena that is phenomenal, and that's another place that actually makes a killer burger as well. Yeah, what is it with like Napa and really good frickin' burgers?
Yeah, because we've got Gots here too. I've never had the burger at Goose and Gander.
Oh, it's so good.
Is it? Oh,
yeah. And the friggin' duck fat fries. Get the fuck out of here.
Oh yeah, I've had those.
Gander.
Yeah.
They're just like, why do you do this to me? They should start. They should just be like a cardiologist handing you their business card, like as you walk out of Goose and Gander. No offense to Goose and Gander, it's
Oh,
delicious.
awesome.
Great. Now I'm hungry. Thanks, Keith.
Oh,
Thanks.
you're welcome.
You asked the question, Dick.
Yeah, right. And if you come stay with me, I'll whip up a good plate of tater tots for you.
Oh,
That's my skill set.
Tractors,
with
Russians,
martinis and tater tots.
Russian,
That should be
Russian tractors, martinis, and tater tots. But he wasn't a
What's
good
your
student.
vodka of choice for said martini? Or is it a gin martini? Let's
No,
talk turkey real
no,
quick.
it's Tahoe Blue right now is just killing it for me because they do a blend of 3 different types of vodka, the grape, the wheat, and the potato. So I don't know if I ever told you the story. So it's not that I have issues, but I do have a martini every night. And one of the things I love doing is I would always do it the way I was taught to do it. The way Santa needed them because he was tired, dirty martini,
Yeah.
a little bit of vermouth. But then I was tasting with this gentleman and he had these, he was a friend of Jackie Sofra's, actually, one of my old bosses. And he had a couple Michelin star restaurants and he and I got into martinis instead of wine tasting. So I don't know why they let me do wine tastings, but anyway, he said he wanted me to try something and this is the way I drink it now. So I make it that same way, dirty martini, vodka martini, Tahoe Blue. But he said, get a non-herbaceous gin and just do a splash of that in there, and so that's what I do. And blue ale right now. And so you just put tiniest little bit of gin in there and like not the big pine needly stuff, and then it adds a little bit of interest to it. And you're just not actually certain why, but it's just something that's fun on the mid. Ooh, look at me use terms, mid palate.
No, I love it. You're just as enthusiastic about your martini than you are about wine, and it's fucking great.
And that's how Keith got fired.
We're supposed to talk about wine.
Oh my God. But no, that's one thing that I have noticed, whether you're in the spirits industry, the wine industry, the beer industry, you always want to drink what you're not drinking all day or where you're not working with all day. The folks in the wine business want to have a beer, they want to have a cocktail. The folks that make beer want to have a cocktail. It's like it's the folks that make spirits, they're like, all right, I need to stop drinking whiskey for a minute. Let's go drink a Pinot Noir. So Keith, for people that want to visit, so they're going to go to longmeadowranch.com. That's going to be their best way to get an appointment. I would always suggest first try Long Meadow, especially if you're in Napa for a few days, go try Long Meadow Ranch and then work your way up to the mountain fruit. So that way you can get a real understanding of the family and just the variety of wines that they make. I mean, their Rutherford Cabernet from the Long Meadow Ranch label, I love it. That estate cab is just delicious as well. And that's lower altitude. That's not what I mean, but like lower altitude fruit. When we're talking about mountain fruit, that's like valley floor stuff, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah,
from what I remember from. So there's just a great variety to Long Meadow Ranch. We try to end every show the same way, or try to, because thankfully I only had one glass of wine. The only thing we don't get back in life is time, and we want to thank you. Megan and I want to thank you for spending a little bit of your precious time with us here on Kill the Bottle Podcast, just blessing us with your knowledge. So guys, please check out longmeadowranch.com. When you're in the valley, go to Farmstead, get a burger, then, maybe compare it to the place next door, then get a Lipitor, then, do all of the above things. Please like, subscribe, follow. We're here. Let us know what you want to chat about. Let us know what you want us to tell Megan you love her, please. I'm waiting for her to. I'm just waiting. I'm just waiting for her to say something mean to me. But no, she didn't for once. Thank you so much, Keith. I really appreciate you, and I hope to see you sooner than later. Kill the Bottle Podcast, guys. See you next week.